everyone. It's been a hot minute, but I'm gonna just keep it short and just say that the girl's been gone because I was depressed. I had anhedonia like a bitch. But anyway, this video is going to be a book review on like the most infamous book that has ever graced TikTok's presence, which is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I finally got around to reading this, and shit, I don't know.
Y'all, I edited, like, the mean part of this already, and for some reason, I am missing, like, a random, like, 30 to 40 seconds of footage right here, so I'm just gonna fill you in on the tea of the beginning of this whole escapade. Anyway, basically all I was saying is how this bitch, Lily, was having it rough. And she is in Boston, and she goes to this rooftop, and she meets this mysterious hot neurosurgeon man. And then, they get to talking, and they both have trauma and issues. And that's basically what we missed, up to this point. I probably made some stupid joke here or there. Sorry, that footage is lost, and you'll never hear it, and it'll just die like Squidward's hopes and dreams. Enjoy the rest of this video.
And then he basically is like, girl, honest truth, bitch. I wanna fuck you right now. And she's just like, that's not my vibe, that's not how I roll, but like, you hot, you a snack. And then like, they don't see each other for months, and then all of a sudden, like, and Lily Blossom Bloom gets her dream. She opens up a flower shop, and it's not just any flower shop, it's edgy flowers. They're dark, they're gloomy, they're depressing. What a whole vibe. But there's a chick who walks in who's like, yo, can I have a job? Even though she's a fucking rich ass hoe and doesn't need one, and she's like, I'm just bored because my husband makes so much money. And so, shit, I don't remember her name. Alyssa. She's like, oh, like, can I have a job here? Blah. Like, she offers up her services, and Lily's out here falling over shit, and like her angle, whatever the fuck. Well, Alyssa calls her brother in to help out along with his friend, and they were both at this bar wearing onesies because you get free drinks when you go to like there's a game on and you wear a onesie, you get a free beer. And like, you're a man, so you must want free beer. So that's what they did. And her and this man's make eye contact, and her brother happens to be the man on the roof, Ryle. The biggest frat boy of them all. So they have a moment, and he's like, honest truth, baby, I still wanna fuck you. And his sister over here, and she's like, I apologize to my brother. And Lily's like, oh, it's fine, like, we had a moment before. So, this bitch, like, she goes back to her apartment, like, it's fine, nothing's happening. He knocks on every single fucking door to, like, find her, and he shows up at her apartment. And he's like, oh, girl, I just can't stop thinking about you. We should just sleep together, and I want to fuck you so I can get it out of my system, and I'll never think about you again. Like, do you have any self-worth? Honey, do you have any, like, zero self-worth? None? Okay. So she was like, oh, it's hard to resist you, because you're just so hot. You're a neurosurgeon. And, like, bro, the weirdest shit is that she has a thing for his scrub. Like, ooh, boy, you and your scrubs, like, oh, he just came from the ER, a neurosurgeon with his scrubs. Like, that's such a fucking odd thing to fixate on, to be honest. Like, why? But anyway, in the midst of all this happening, she's also having, like, flashbacks to her childhood. She's, like, rereading her own journal, her old journal that she had about Atlas, who was this boy that she met when she was younger, and he was homeless for a while, and he was staying in the abandoned house next door to her, and they had like friends to lovers kind of situation. Like, she helped him out, she gave him food and clothes, and they hung out after school, and they watched Ellen, and then she wrote all of her diary entries to Ellen DeGeneres. That was not generous to me. Like, the their whole thing was like, oh, just keep swimming or freaking Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo was a great movie, but like, you really couldn't think of anything better. Like, oh, just keep swimming. It's gonna be okay. Basically, she was reliving the past by like reading these journal entries. You kind of get a background into all of her dad's abusive episodes towards her mother, towards her, and the environment she lived in. Very sad, very depressing, traumatic, which, you know, made this a little bit more tolerable because, like I said, romance books aren't my thing. Atlas lives next door because family kicked him out, blah, blah, blah. You find more context about that. If you want to read it, like, I don't want to get into the thick of it. Yeah, they talk about, oh, like, Boston's the best place ever. Oh, like, oh, I love that. And she's so, like, they both end up in Boston. And so, her and this neurosurgeon guy, like, he's like, oh, I can't stop thinking about you. Like, I'm gonna be committed to you, but, like, on a trial basis. Like, we're gonna see how this goes. Because, you know, he just wants to get in her pants. But anyway, so they go to this restaurant in Boston. It's new, up and coming. It's very good. And she sees Atlas, her childhood friend to lover. And that was a whole thing, right? And it was awkward because they haven't spoken in forever, didn't keep in touch. He saw bruises on Lily because Ryle was in a drunken stupor and pushed her down the stairs. And she confronted him about it and he denied it. And she was like, oh, it only happened once, but if you do that to me ever again, I'm out. Like, I feel like at that point in the book, I kind of know where this is heading, right? So, pretty obvious. Continuing on, like, he sees her have bruises, he follows her in the bathroom. Atlas follows her in the bathroom, they have a conversation, and he's like, bro, if that man's hurting you, like, you need to get out of there. Like, that's what he was suspecting. And she's like, no, he's not like that. Like, I love him, he's a good guy, whatever. I'm making excuses for this toxic man. Atlas and Ryle get into a tussle in Atlas's restaurant because he's the owner of the restaurant that's like super good, and then they leave. And then they have an argument about her and Atlas or whatever. Atlas gives her her phone number just in case. She puts it in the back of her phone, blah blah blah. And it's like her mom meets this man and she's like, oh, he's a neurosurgeon, like big bucks money, fat stacks. To make up for what he did, Ryle decides, okay, I'm gonna buy this beautiful apartment so we can live together. And she doesn't get anything of it. She moves in like, what the fuck, bitch? Like, he just pushed you down the stairs. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, dumb. Eventually, they have another argument. He's very, very mad because he asks her where this specific magnet on their fridge came from. It says Boston, or best place on earth, some cheesy shit like that. He, like, asks her directly, like, hey, where'd you get this? She's like, oh, like, it was a gift from someone I remember, blah, blah, blah. And then they're very raunchy. So he just like, okay. And he starts to fuck her in the kitchen. And they had fucked all throughout their apartment, every single room. You know, they cleanse that with their juices. In the process, like, he asks her again, and she denies it, and he gets so freaking mad. He hits her, and then he takes her to the bedroom, and he rapes her because he knows she's lying. Since he read her journals with all of the diary entries to Ellen. Whoa, Ellen. And so she wrote about him Atlas giving her the magnet. And so he is livid. Yeah, so he beats her, he rapes her. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, that's how he is after every time. Like, he's abusive towards her. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, it won't happen again. Like, I love you. Like, love bombing. Like, being toxic ass man. And so then, eventually, you know, in the middle of the night, she slowly worms out because he's like wrapped up around her. They're sleeping in the bed. Actually sleeping, not sleeping. So she gets out of bed. She's like, I don't know who to call. I don't want to call my mom because, you know, then she'd be super concerned. I don't want to call Alyssa because, you know, that's Ryle's sister. And so she calls Atlas. And they go to the ER. And at the ER, they ask, like, oh, like, do you want to do a rape kit? She denies it. She's like, no, like, he didn't rape me, whatever. Like, she's in denial because she's in love with him, and it's sad and dramatic. But then they're also like, oh, yeah, like, we can't do a CAT scan and, like, check you for anything because you're pregnant. She's like, oh, shit. So now she has a baby growing inside her with this man who is so abusive towards her that it's crazy, and she doesn't know what to do. And so then she stays at Atlas's home for a while. She figures out that he lied because he said he had a girlfriend, didn't have a girlfriend, didn't want to make her feel bad, whatever. I don't know what's going on with that. She thought he didn't come back for her because he promised he would, and then it turns out that he did. He went to visit her at her college, and he saw her with another guy, like kissing or whatever, and then he got so butthurt, he was like, I can't. She's happy. I cannot break this up. And so he took himself out, and then that didn't happen. Her and Ryle kind of like break up. They had an argument because he wanted to go to work in Cambridge and do this prestigious fucking program for his job. And, you know, she didn't want to move there. I think it was Chicago or some shit. She's like, I don't want to move there. And so he just decides to go because it was like a 3-month thing. And so she stays in Boston by herself in that apartment. And her friends are helping her, like, get ready for this baby because she's keeping the child. She gives birth, and then it's like a complicated relationship between her and Ryle because she doesn't want to, you know, take away the father of the kid or ruin anything else with Atlas or whatever. But eventually, her and Atlas end up together, and yeah. I think it's a good commentary on abusive relationships and how, from an outside perspective, it's like, oh, why don't you just leave? And it's always like, oh, why doesn't the girl leave? As opposed to, why can't the man just stop being fucking abusive? Like, it's always pinpointed on the female, which kind of sucks. Also, it's like, okay, she had that perspective from the outside, but she also had the perspective from the inside, right? Like, she had those emotions for this person, so she made excuses, and then, you know, after each excuse, it'll snowball, and then you can tolerate more from this person instead of cutting off the toxicity right when it happens, which is kind of what she did the first time when she didn't get, when she was like, oh, I'll give you another chance. So I thought it was a good commentary on that. But for my liking, I'm not a big romance person. I thought it was really cheesy. I thought that, you know, there wasn't really a lot of character development, and I kind of like to see that in books. Except for Lily, she had a little bit of character development because she started to realize, like, oh, I'm worth more than this shit, and she leaves. I thought it was predictable that she ended up with Atlas in the end. It was kind of obvious the whole time, like, oh, they're gonna get back together because he came back, whatever. And the whole thing with Ellen, I was like, okay, that was fucking random. And then also the thing with her and the scrubs, like, ooh, who's that? You just scrubs. Like, I can't take that seriously. And then, like, her name being Lily Bloom and owning a flower shop, like, too on the nose for me. Probably was going for some comedic effect, but, like, it was just too cheesy for my cheesy tolerance level. Overall, I'd probably give it 3 stars. And I'm sorry if you really like that book. I like books that make me kind of have to think and puzzle things together, and this was more like, oh, this is an easy, really read. But it's also traumatic, so trigger warning if you know, probably should have said trigger warning at the beginning of this video, but if you wanted to read it. Anyway, I hope you all liked and enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And subscribe if you want more of these, or let me know in the comments if there's any specific book you want me to review next. To see my previous book review, I'll leave a link in the description as well. I did the picture of Dorian Gray, and it was very problematic, but also very great. That was a piece of literature, let me tell you. So, stay safe, be good, do amazing things, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.